All right, and sitting down with us for the podcast today, we have former NFL, former CFL player, and current strength and conditioning coach, Pat Woodcock. Pat, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kyle. It's good to be here.
Anytime, anytime. So, right off the bat here, what's harder, winning a Grey Cup or homeschooling four kids during a pandemic?
There's no question that homeschooling four kids during a pandemic is harder than anything I think we've ever done. It is madness, utter
Yeah,
madness.
yeah, it's
Football is hard, but at least it's on a schedule and it's organized and you know exactly what you need to do. You just need to do it really well. Here, I don't know what's going on. So
yeah, yeah.
we're making it up as we go along.
There's some moments where you feel like you're just in Lord of the Flies, eh?
Absolutely. Yeah. I am not in charge very much around here.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, growing up for you, was it always football as sort of your first love, or were you a multi-sport athlete, or how did you get introduced to the game?
Yeah, I started off playing soccer. Was my first sport, and then both my parents played touch football when I was growing up, so I was always kind of around the game. In high school, I kind of messed around with basketball a little bit, but football was the one that was always kind of there, and it was always the one that I was the best at, anyways. So, as once I got into high school, it was pretty much all football from there on out.
Yeah, yeah. Do you remember the exact age where the switch sort of flipped, where it went from, oh yeah, this is something fun that mom and dad signed me up for, to, okay, I can actually, see myself playing at that next level, getting a scholarship, that sort of thing?
Yeah. Yeah, I was playing for the Canada Knights, and we had a coach who had played NCAA at one point. He had played at Clemson University, and so he took me aside one day and said, like, you have the ability to potentially do this, and here's kind of the steps that you might want to follow, and that kind of stuff. And that sort of put the bug in my ear and the thought in my head, sort of thing. And yeah, from then on out, that was, I mean, the scholarship was the number one goal all through the rest of high school from there.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you look at it today, and we're starting to actually see some more products coming out of not just Canada, but even the Ottawa Gatineau region here that are
Yeah.
having success at NCAA, NFL, all that good stuff there. But I mean, back when you were playing, Canada wasn't exactly known as a football hotbed of NCAA prospects there. So, what even was your recruiting process like as a teenager?
It's awesome to tell it now because people, some of them, like if they're young enough, they don't even know what I'm talking about. So I mean, I went to camps and all that kind of stuff, but I made up a highlight film, printed off VHS copies and put them in the mail and sent them off to coaches, and went to the camps on campus and that kind of stuff, and did the recruiting combine and those things. And then my coaches, when I played for Myers Riders, they used to go to the coaching clinic at Syracuse all the time. So they had a bit of a relationship with the Canadian recruiter there. So they put my tape right in his hand. He watched it for them and said, yeah, we like this. So they invited me down to their high school camp, and they offered me on the spot when I was there. And that was my first full offer. And I kind of took it right away. And uh, that was it for me. I was happy to be there.
Yeah, yeah. And so for those that are listening right now, there, once you did sort of get on campus, did you feel like you belonged right away? And you know what, I made the right decision. Syracuse is the right school for me. Or did you have any of those second thoughts of, oh, maybe I should have, held out for another offer, or seen what else was out there?
No, I never doubted Syracuse being the choice, but there was definitely like moments of pause where I'm just like, man, like, you walk in the locker room like, it's all good when you're getting recruited and everything, right? And then you walk in to the locker room for the first time, and there's an All-American in this locker, and there's an All-Big East in this locker, and so on down the line and stuff. And you walk in, and especially me personally, like I'm 5'9", 175 pounds at the time, and yeah, you question, okay, can I do this? Am I going to do this? And yeah, you definitely have those moments for sure. But I never questioned if Syracuse was the right choice, and I never really questioned if I was like, oh, do I belong? Am I going to do this? So you have those moments where it's like, oof, I'm in the big pond now.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. I mean, so you have a very successful career at Syracuse, playing at the NCAA level there, and then you graduate, and you actually ended up getting experience at both the NFL and the CFL level there. What was it like, going through training camps, and maybe what was even the difference in a CFL training camp versus an NFL training camp when you're vying for those roster spots there?
Yeah, it was a pretty different world back when I did it. So, the story I tell is like I went, my rookie training camp was 2001. And so, I mean, you're around my age, so you remember it was around that time that there was a couple guys that died during training camp. And so my season, I believe 2001, that was the last year that we had 3-a-days in training camp, and the last year that we had 2-a-days in full pads. I think now you can only have like full pads or full pads on alternate days or something like that. They've really changed it. But back then it was like 6 weeks of 2-a-days, full pads. And it was a struggle. But not knowing any better, coming fresh out of college, like you just put your head down and you go, right? You don't have any other thing to compare it to. And I knew going in that I was probably like the 16th ranked receiver of the 16 receivers in camp. And so I didn't have any other choice but to put my head down and just go every day. I really enjoyed the Giants camp, I think because of that. I didn't have any expectation going in, either probably from their end or from my own. I just wanted to go and do my thing. And it ended up working out really well. I got lucky in the sense that there was some guys that got injured. And so I got more reps than I probably should have. And I was able to take advantage of those reps and actually make the team coming out of training camp, which was totally unexpected. It didn't last very long. I ended up, getting released in week 3 and making the move up to the CFL for the first time. But that camp just gave me a ton of confidence in terms of building the rest of my career moving forward. Because even though I was successful at Syracuse, we didn't throw the ball a ton. I was, a starting receiver and a team captain and all those things, but I didn't have huge stats coming out of college. So being able to go to a pro camp and make a team as a receiver and do the things that I was being asked to do at that position was just, like I said, a huge boost to my confidence and really kind of propelled my career moving forward from there.
In terms of actual, day-to-day preparation and maybe even how the organizations are structured there, is there a huge difference between, the Giants and, the Alouettes, or a CFL franchise versus NFL franchise? Or is football and, one might just be on a bigger scale than the other, but for the most part, the nitty-gritty is pretty similar?
Yeah. I mean, once you cross the white line, it's the same thing, right? Football is football, and you're trying to learn plays and learn the motions and where you're supposed to line up and all those things. But the other aspects of it, there's certainly a big difference. I mean, training camp in the CFL is much shorter, certainly much less challenging physically. Like it's only a few weeks long before you start getting into the exhibition games. So the challenge is not there. And then even during the work week, during the regular season, it's a 4-hour work week, 4-hour work day in the CFL, right? They can only mandate 4 hours of practice, meetings, weight room, that kind of stuff. Whereas in the NFL, that's a full-time job. You get there at 7, you leave at 7, and it's a full deal. So obviously the compensation matches that, and so that it is what it is. But yeah, I mean the organizational stuff and the I guess the day-to-day stuff is very different. But then yeah, once you cross the line and you step on for practice or games or whatever, everybody's fighting for a job, man.
Yeah. So you were fortunate as well in the CFL that you were actually, a Grey Cup champion at the end of the day, and you had a lot of success in Montreal, but you also played for some different organizations within the CFL there.
Yeah.
And, looking back on it now, was there something special about that team culture that you had in Montreal that year that you won the championship that you can maybe pick out that was different than some of the other seasons with other teams?
Yeah, I mean, I think, for me, again, so that championship year, that was the very next year. So that was 2002. So I was still relatively young. I didn't have a lot to compare it to. But for me, I think the biggest thing was honestly Don Matthews. And, they say it starts at the top, right? And so so that team in 2001, they lost like 7 of their last 8 games to finish the season, lost in the first round of the playoffs, and then the coach got fired. And so it was kind of a miserable finish. A lot of those same guys came back, but Don got hired in the offseason. So despite that finish and all those things, on the first day of training camp, Don said, "You guys will not have curfew until Grey Cup week." And he didn't really explain anything more than that, but it was just right in his head and right now into our head, hey, he's preparing us for Grey Cup week on week 1 of training camp. And so I think that just instilled with us a bunch of confidence kind of right away. And I think we had kind of a veteran team, and it worked really well with Don's coaching style, because Don basically doesn't care what you do as long as you produce on the field. And we had the right kind of guys in the locker room to make sure that we were taking care of the things on the side, so that when we stepped onto the field, we were always taking care of business. And, we fed off of his enthusiasm for the game and the way that he treated us and those kind of things. And we had some great players on that team as well. And anytime you have a championship season, everything has to fall into place. But for me, I think the biggest difference between those years and any other years that I had was it all started with Don Matthews.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember when, you in your first couple of seasons, and it could have been whether it was a coach or front office guy or just a veteran on the team there, but what was just one piece of advice that really affected you and really helped you acclimate yourself to sort of that professional game there in your early years?
Yeah, well, I think it was being in Montreal and being around Anthony Calvillo and Ben Cahoon. And so those guys were as talented as they were students of the game, right? Like they were always watching film and, studying the opponent and figuring out weaknesses and where they can take advantage and that kind of stuff. And, we did that stuff in college, but for me, being a young guy, like I was just, hey, just line me up and let me run around. But being around those guys and seeing how much of an advantage that can create for you, that just kind of led into, me kind of building those habits through the rest of my career and being able to get the most out of my ability to run around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you were getting towards the end of your career there for your at least your playing days,
Yeah.
was it more of a sense of, okay, you know what, the desire is there, but my body's just taking a beating, and I think this is probably going to be my last season? Or were you just fully at peace with, I've had a great run and I'm going into it knowing this is my last season, I've got no regrets? Like, was it one or the other? Was it a little bit of both there?
Yeah, it was kind of a combination. I mean, I definitely felt like I had a couple more years that I could have played. I obviously wasn't necessarily at the highest level that I was early in my career, but I definitely still could have played, I think. When I got released, so my last season was with Hamilton, I got released by Hamilton, and I had some inquiries from some other teams, but teams that did not have great offenses and had not had really good years the year before. And I had been on a couple teams like that already. And mentally, I did not want to go through a season like that again. So I said no to those teams, even though they were interested, waiting and hoping and thinking that maybe another team might be interested. They weren't. And then, yeah, I mean, the way it went, I didn't feel that remorse that I didn't take that other opportunity or anything like that. So I think it was a combination that, yeah, I would have liked to play a few more years. It didn't happen, but I was ultimately okay with it. I didn't feel like I missed out on anything. It didn't feel like I let any opportunities go to waste, sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think the fact that you were sort of at peace with it a little bit, and it wasn't no, I gotta play another 2 years, I'm so close to a milestone, whatever it is there. The
Yeah.
fact that you did sort of, go out on your own terms there, did that help make the transition from professional playing career to entrepreneur career a little bit easier for you, in that you were able to jump headfirst into it with no regrets and a lot of excitement even?
I think so. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's all, if there's something in the back of your mind that's kind of pulling you back to where you came from, that's always going to hold you back a little bit. And I never really had that. So, I mean, I was fortunate too. I had like strong family support and all that stuff that is so crucial. And I did have another venture that I was moving into sort of right away. And so I think all those things combined, it made it a really, really seamless and smooth transition for me. It really wasn't. It really wasn't something that was like traumatic or anything like that. So I definitely one of the lucky ones from that side of things, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, once you did get into, you're launching your strength and conditioning career, your own business, you got quite a few things on the go there. Were there any teammates or former coaches or anything who reached out to you with advice or even just words of encouragement that really helped you in those early days?
Well, I mean, I started working with a teammate in Donnie Ruiz at Elite Performance Academy. And so we had done a couple camps together and decided to kind of bring our two businesses together under one roof, sort of thing. And so obviously there was that. There was a couple other teammates. Yo Murphy does something similar out in Tampa, has his own facility and has been doing it for a long time. So we reached out to him and kind of got his view on things. And there was no coaches. I don't recall coaches at that time reaching out, but there was definitely, I mean, there's a lot of former players who go into strength and conditioning or training of some capacity. So there was a few different guys that we kind of picked brains and just touch base with them to see how they were doing things, and try to stand on some shoulders and make things easier for us so that we didn't have to create the wheel ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, what's cool about your business as well too is you guys aren't just football specific. You guys work with athletes of all ages, different sports, positions, backgrounds, everything like that. And obviously, there's certain things where if you're an offensive lineman, you're working on a lot different things than a wide receiver. But if we're just talking about athletes in general here, and let's even say high school athletes who are looking to sort of play post secondary or beyond there, what are some really basic things that are universally applicable to them that they really should be focusing on, right? Is it diet? Is it speed and agility? Is it muscle pliability? Like what are the things that you usually recommend to your clients?
Yeah, I mean, for any athlete, I mean, number one, you really can't be too strong. I mean,
Mhm.
if you're too strong as a high school athlete, then you're doing something really well in the weight room. But there's not too many of those that get to a point where they're too strong to play football now. So you got to be strong. You got to be able to move, no matter what your position is, whether you're an O lineman, a D lineman, wide receiver. You got to be able to move. It's just the nature of the game. And if you're just a big guy who can throw people around, you're not going to last too long. Nutrition's always going to be a big factor because that's the fuel for your machine. So if you might be fast, you might be strong, you might have all those things, but if you're not putting the right fuel in, obviously it's not going to function, at least not at the highest levels. And then probably the biggest thing that gets overlooked is sleep. I think sleep is crucial for everybody. But I mean, when you're a high school athlete, you're actually still growing, you're still developing, your brain is still developing, and you're dealing with the stress of high school and chasing a scholarship and all those things. And sleep is the thing that relieves all that stress and helps your body recover from the workouts and recover from games and those type of things, and allows you to be at your best. So I think that's the biggest overlook when everybody knows about the strength and speed and all that stuff, but you got to go to bed at night, turn your phone off, turn the TV off, go to bed at night, get your 8, 9 hours at least, and see how you feel after that.
Yeah, yeah. So those Netflix binges till 4 a.m. are not recommended.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
So here we are. We're in mid-January. Obviously, New Year, New Year's resolutions are a big part of that. And
Yeah.
whether people are looking to lose weight, eat better, get stronger, whatever it is, there's all sorts of studies out there that almost 80% of people have already given up on it by mid-February, right?
Yeah.
What is it that you find clients struggle with so much in order, whether it's willpower or focus or lack of accountability? Why do people fall off their New Year's resolutions so quickly?
I think honestly, the number one reason is because they make it a resolution. So they build it up so much in whenever they start thinking about it, November, December. Oh, come New Year's, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, and then they jump into something that completely changes their lifestyle. They
Mhm.
change the way they eat. They change the way they exercise. I'm getting up at 5 a.m. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm doing it, and it's too much.
Yeah.
And they don't recognize, like, it's not even part of their life anymore. It doesn't fit with what they're doing. It doesn't fit, and they don't necessarily think it all through. The biggest thing about fitness for people in general, not talking about athletes, is just doing it consistently. It
Mhm.
doesn't have to be the best program. It doesn't have to be some fad diet. It doesn't have to be whatever. You just have to do it day after day after day after day. And so it has to be something that's maintainable and that fits into your lifestyle, not the other way around, right? When you're an athlete, that is your lifestyle. You got to live training. You got to live, your practice and all that kind of stuff. And if you're trying to be a fitness competitor, all those things. But if you're just talking about losing a few pounds and looking good naked and feeling good about yourself and all those things, you just got to do it every day. Like, it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be the perfect workout. It doesn't have to be the perfect diet. You
Yeah.
just got to be consistent and stick with it time after time after time. And that's the biggest issue that people have, is they jump into something thinking that's the magic pill, but it's just not sustainable for them in the long term.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, even in the most perfect scenario here, it's hard enough to keep these resolutions and these changes and the consistency of that. Now you sprinkle in good old never-ending COVID here, and you don't
Yeah,
have access to gyms. You don't. There's lockdowns.
yeah,
People are questioning you if you're going out for a run, all that fun stuff.
yeah.
So, what is just some basic advice that you can offer people who might want to be getting in better shape or losing weight or whatever, but
Yeah.
don't have access to weights or machines or any of that stuff at home? What are some of the things they can just do around the house that'll actually benefit them?
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows sort of the basics. I mean, you can do some body weight squats, and you can do lunges, and you can do push-ups and those kind of things. During the first COVID, I did some online workouts for my clients and stuff like that. And we filled up a backpack with books to use as an exterior weight, and obviously did the water jug thing and those type of things. And honestly, those things are good enough to keep you going for a little while, right? They provide some exterior resistance, and they give you a tool to put into your workout, so you don't feel like you're just going through the motions by, you know, doing bodyweight squats, whatever. It kind of gives you, I guess, a little bit more purpose to it. And you can manipulate those things in a bunch of different ways. Walking is huge. People underestimate walking and think, oh, I'm not burning enough calories, I'm not breathing heavy. But if you go for a nice long walk every day, that's going to go a long way to just keeping your body healthy, keeping your heart healthy, and keeping you sane. You know, get some fresh air and getting outside of your house. The other big thing is food wise, you have to be conscious of what you're eating all the time. So it's super easy when you're in the house all the time. You know, you take a break from the computer, what do? You walk to the kitchen. When you're watching TV, what do? You walk to the kitchen. And now when you're there all day, it's just a constant flow of food into the mouth. So you got to be conscious of what you're eating. Try to focus on getting enough protein every day, because that's the best way to maintain body composition, even if you are eating a little bit more than you normally do. If it's protein, it's going to work better for you. But those are the biggest things. You know, find a workout routine. Doesn't have to be super extravagant, but something that you can do with the stuff in your house. Get outside and walk, and then just eat consciously. Don't be that snacker that all of a sudden you turn around and the kitchen's empty of food because you just demolished it all without even thinking about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And, you know, even following that sort of train of thought right there, in addition to your strength and conditioning, you've also been getting quite a few certifications in nutrition and healthy eating and all of that good stuff there. So, I mean, what is, just off the top of your head, something that you continually find that people are not eating enough of in their diets, and something that people are eating way too much of in their diets, if we're just speaking in generalities here?
Yeah, so surprisingly enough, most people are not eating enough protein. Most people, you kind of, when you actually get them to log their food and track it for a few days, they're definitely not eating enough protein. And a lot of that comes from sticking with cereals and toasts and that kind of stuff with breakfast that has virtually no protein in it. And then maybe they have a sandwich for lunch, so there's a little bit of protein, but not very much. And then really maybe they have a piece of meat for dinner, and that's about it. So if you can get protein throughout the day, that's huge. In order to, it does a lot of things. It stokes your metabolism, which of course helps you burn more calories even when you are sitting in front of the computer all day. Helps you maintain your muscle mass and all those kind of things, and it keeps you fuller longer, so you don't go back and get those snacks and that kind of stuff. And eating too much of, yeah, generally carbohydrates, man. And it's the, you know, the not good ones. Obviously fruits and vegetables are carbohydrates. Those are great. Eat those as much as you want. But yeah, it's the snacky ones, the breads, that kind of stuff. And the problem is it's so easy to overeat it. Yeah. That you don't even realize it, right? Those are the snacks that you wander into the kitchen and they end up disappearing, right? Nobody wanders into the kitchen and walks away with a chicken breast, but it's the pastries and the chips and that kind of stuff, and it just adds up so fast. And it's not just the calories, but it's the effect that it has on your hormones and the way your body processes things, that, you know, it slows things down even beyond just that snack or that meal or whatever the case may be. And so that's why it creates so many issues in the long term for people.
Yeah. And when you're going through these food logs with your clients there, you know, is there something that always seems to pop up that people seem to think is healthy and then are shocked to learn it actually really doesn't do very much good for your body?
I don't think there's one consistent one. I mean, there's lots of different ones. People think bagels are healthy, and, you know, people are like, oh, I get my yogurt. And I'm like, yeah, but that's the fruit, like it's the sugar yogurt. There's like 30 grams of fat, sugar in that yogurt and that kind of stuff. There's always a few of those. Some like to get the healthy treats, but it's still a cookie. Yeah. You know, it might be a gluten-free cookie, but it's still a cookie. And so, you know, there's lots of different ones. But the part of the problem is there's so much misinformation out there, and the way things are marketed. And if it's gluten-free, it's automatically healthy and all that kind of stuff, which is obviously not the case. So it's just a matter of, you know, showing people the true value of food and what's really important with it and stuff, and trying to get them away from buying stuff that comes in a package, and just buy fresh meat and fresh vegetables and fresh fruit and that kind of stuff, and nothing that has 17 ingredients in it.
Yeah. So, I mean, a big thing for a lot of people, everyone seems to want to have abs, and whether it's, you know, a 6-pack, an 8-pack, whatever, but for a lot of people, they just want to even see the abs again, right? Yeah. Not even being completely ripped, but, you know, there's lots that obviously goes into a healthy lifestyle, and whether it's, you know, the nutrition, the cardio training, the weight training there. But if you were to sort of even just ballpark it speaking in generalities here, middle-aged man, where would you sort of rank those three in terms of importance? If they want to ditch the belly and
Yeah.
actually see their abs again there, what's most important? Is it the food they're putting into them? Is it weights? How would you rank them?
Yeah, ultimately it's going to come down to nutrition. I mean, they're all important. They all play their role. The biggest one is going to be nutrition. You can be on the best training program and you can nail it every day, but if you're not eating the right stuff, it's not going to happen for you. But yeah, I mean, they're all interchangeable, right? And it's a sliding scale for certain people too, right? Some people just genetically, they're going to deal with certain foods better than others. And so maybe nutrition slides down this way on the scale a little bit. The training becomes more important. Sleep becomes more important. Stress management becomes more important. All those things play into it. Other people might not deal with carbohydrates very well, so they got to slide more along this side. The nutrition plays even more of a role, but nutrition's the biggest one. But everything's interchangeable to a certain extent, especially when everybody sees abs on the magazines and there's lots of magazines. So everybody thinks that's super common. It's not super common. It takes a lot of work to get to that point. And so kind of all the arrows have to be pointing in the same direction to get you to that point, right? Especially when you are 35, 40, 45 years old, hormones are not what they used to be. We don't have those things that we had when we were 20 and 25. So you really got to be, your training is designed a certain way. Your nutrition supports the training. You're sleeping to support the training. You're taking the supplements to support the nutrition. Everything's kind of pointing in the right direction. You're kind of beating the body over the head to kind of this is what I'm trying to do. Get the signal, would you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The good old days when you used to be 20 and you could scarf down a Big Mac, go to the beach and still look good in your bathing.
You look great.
So, I mean, you've created a pretty cool program where it's a men's specific program. It's a small group that you're looking for, and you're essentially looking for people who want to ditch the dad bod.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that and sort of what went into the thinking of creating it?
Yeah. So, I mean, as I've gotten older and, I've kind of gotten into that age where I have, my life revolves around kids and family and stuff like that. And I'm still busy, obviously running business and those things. I don't have 2 hours to spend in the gym anymore. Or the inclination most days. And so it's kind of started with me, actually. It was the year after I worked with the Red Blacks. And so I had spent all day at the training facility with the Red Blacks, gone to my facility in the evening. We had just had our 4th child. So I wasn't training well at all. I wasn't eating well at all. And I got the most out of shape that I had ever been in. So when the season ended, I wanted to get back into shape, started doing what I usually do, and just wasn't getting results anymore. So kind of like you said, I kind of did a bit of a deep dive on nutrition and hormones and those kind of things, and figured out that, like I said just a second ago, testosterone's down, growth hormones down, but we can manipulate those things a little bit by the way that we train, the way that we eat, the way that we take care of our lifestyle. And so I put together this program that kind of, like I said, points all the arrows in the right direction. So, we train to stimulate and create a positive hormone environment and get the benefits of those things, right? Testosterone and growth hormone, those are the things that drive fat loss and that drive muscle gain, especially in men. And so if we can optimize those and keep those the highest we possibly can, even as we get older, we're going to get better results than if we're not doing those things. And then we eat to support the training. We make sure we're sleeping, dealing with stress, all those kind of things. And yeah, as I got to this age as well, I started having more clients that were like me. And so I had a bunch of businessmen in there and fathers and that kind of stuff. So they were my guinea pigs. I experimented with them. We got some great results, and I've been able to kind of fine tune the program, obviously bring it online and help guys, honestly, especially since COVID hit, all over North America. I've got clients in Australia, in Europe, in India, kind of all over the place, which is super cool to be able to take a program and guys that have a problem and have something that they don't want to have and don't want to deal with, and be able to help them even from here in Canada.
Yeah, yeah. And is it sort of more one-on-one coaching, or is it sort of a large group thing where you're all sort of holding each other accountable? How does that work?
It's a combination. So I create the program, and it's individualized for each guy in terms of what they're able to do and what equipment they have and those kind of things. But there's group accountability. So we have a group coaching call where everybody comes on, and if they have questions, if they have comments, what worked well for them this week, what didn't, and everybody kind of shares in that sense. And then I use a training app. So, I deliver the programs to an app on your phone, and everybody's obviously on the same app. So they get pings when other guys set a new personal best, or other guys did their workout first this morning and beat them to the weight room sort of thing. And so it becomes competitive, and guys support each other and that kind of stuff. And it's very cool to see the community. It's almost like a little locker room, right? A little team of guys who, came from all over the place, but they've got a common goal and they're working together towards it. And they push each other and challenge each other. And it's a good little environment to, as guys, it's great to have that little push, that little extra competitive edge when you're trying to do stuff. And, especially with COVID and this kind of stuff, it's hard to go down to your basement and work out on your own. It's tough to be motivated to do that. So when you know that me as a coach, I'm checking in on you, and then that the other guys are watching to see what you do today and that kind of stuff, it goes a long way to keeping guys on track.
Yeah, amazing. So, I mean, Pat, for those that are listening right now who want to learn either more about you or your business or even the workout plans that we were just talking about there, where can people find you and get more information?
Yeah, the best place to find me these days, honestly, is on social media. I'm probably on Instagram the most. So my tag there is @EliteCoach, all one word. And then on Facebook, just my name, Pat Woodcock. Those are the two biggest spots. I do a lot of stuff on LinkedIn too, but that's just my name. You can search for me in there. But yeah, those are the best ways to kind of get a hold of me these days, since I'm not in the gym that much. And you can always, message me in there. I have a lot of information that I just provide online, so you can kind of get a feel for what I'm talking about. And then if you have questions, you can just send me a message.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time. And yeah, hopefully at some point we can get enough, vaccinations, case numbers down, whatever the case is, and we can actually get out there and get back to the gyms and all of that again.
Definitely, man. It'll be a good day when that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you take care, and thanks again.
Yeah, much appreciated, man. Good to talk to you.